If you've never heard of 2023's Game of the Year Baldur's Gate 3, not only do I worry for you, but I also pity you. A lot. The D&D-based CRPG took every last corner of the gaming community by storm, stealing hearts from millions of people, including cozy game fans. A rich, seemingly never-ending world, thoughtfully crafted characters, and polished writing slammed Baldur's Gate 3 into many people's favorite game list, me included. I am now on my 10th playthrough as I write this. Yes, it has stolen 1,000 hours from me. I got my autism spectrum disorder diagnosis years ago at this point, if you were wondering. I am fully aware. If you have interests and/or hobbies, chances are you've thought of combining some of them once or twice, maybe had a daydream in your head of merging worlds or collaborations between two stories. Other people have these thoughts too, shockingly, and some of them are quite proactive about it. Stardew Valley, one of the biggest indie games to ever hit the market, also has one of the most vibrant modding communities out there, and not even Pelican Town is immune to BG3 propaganda. Baldur's Village, a Baldur's Gate 3 mod for Stardew Valley, is today's topic, or more so its slightly insane beginnings are. DMCA takedown notices, decades-long D&D beef, and Mr. Larian himself all star in this story, so buckle the fuck up, we're going down, down, down by the river. I know that was lame, but I don't make enough money to be funny all the time on here, so you get what you get. Let's hop into it. Quick disclaimer, this will contain spoilers for the ending of BG3, so if you haven't finished the game yet, I recommend doing so before watching this video. It's worth the time. In addition, I had some visual glitches with the mod that I couldn't for the life of me fix. You might see some weird textures around here. If it bothers you, I'd like to gently remind you that nobody's forcing you to watch this video. You're not being held hostage, and I didn't make this mod. Okay, that's all. After an incredibly successful launch, Baldur's Gate 3 hit monumental sales numbers and became a cultural pillar for the gaming community. If you haven't played the game yourself, much of this video won't make sense, but to be brief, the game takes place in the Dungeons & Dragons universe in the land of Faerun. You can choose to play as your own custom character, called a Tav, or one of 6 origin characters. Any origin characters that you don't play serve as companions throughout the game, making up your party. If I sat here and explained the entire plot to you, this video would be 100 hours long, so I don't know, we're not doing that. A decent chunk of BG3 fans were also self-proclaimed cozy gamers, enjoyers of the occasional life and farming sims. Although an intense, long RPG has many differences, a lot of the core pieces of cozy games were present in BG3. Forming relationships, freedom to tackle quests as you please, and character customization are all examples of features that cozy gamers might find attractive. At the very least, we know some of them did, the developers of Baldur's Village being a great example. On April 27, 2024, artist and BG3 fan Shin Hee announced on her Twitter page that she had started a new project, a massive expansion mod for Stardew Valley called Baldur's Village. The mod aimed to add an entirely new map to Pelican Town, much like Stardew Expanded, based off of BG3's style. It would introduce a unique storyline that took place after the events of BG3 itself, but not within Faerun. Instead, companions would come to the Ferngil Republic themselves and set up a new part of town. All 6 of the main party members from the game would be present, kinda, along with non-origin characters and a horde of other fan-favorite, smaller NPCs like Roland, Alfira, and Yenna. Shinhee, joined by 2 other project partners, had already begun working on pixel art portraits of each character, new building styles, and the base map. The artwork was notably gorgeous. It was a lot more intricate than the rest of Stardew's portraits, but the detail was incredible, and I think the slight mismatch between styles was completely forgivable. Of course, one feature shared by both Stardew and BG3 is romance, and this mod was set to include it. Astarion and Halcyon were listed as datables, with more romances being added in future updates. Those who supported the devs on Patreon would get to help decide which companion romances would come first. Keep that in mind, please. Put a pin in that, thank you. The small team had aimed to release the mod by BG3's first anniversary, which didn't quite happen, but you know how being alive is. The initial post, as of right now, has over 800,000 views and 16,000 likes. I remember hearing about this mod for the first time and losing my shit. It had created quite a buzz in both communities, and the proof of concept was a good sign that the mod was a real, tangible project. Something of this size was, however, a huge undertaking, and some were hesitant to believe it would ever be completed. Most of the chatter was positive, though, and many people kept a close eye out for updates. Over the course of several months, Shin continued to post progress on the mod, showing off new items and art as they were completed. Between a lot of Asterion posting, that is, more portraits slowly trickled onto the Twitter account, and in September of 2024, an FAQ tweet was posted. It gave out a bit more information on what the mod would actually contain. For example, Minthara, Jaheira, and Minsk, 3 non-origin companions, would not be included in the mod, and the devs didn't plan to add them in the future. Since Baldur's Village's storyline was post-game, each character was modeled after one specific ending to their story, and in BG3, there are multiple different outcomes for each character's personal growth. Shin stated that the endings picked were based on personal preference, as was the decision to add Astarion and Halsin's romances first. Later that year, she also revealed that volunteers had been helping to translate the mod into more languages. On March 7th, 2025, after many months of work, the launch version of Baldur's Village became available to the public. In the announcement tweet, a hook for the mod read, "A new village has recently been built north of Pelican Town, and its new residents seem rather unusual. You can find the entrance to Baldur's Village at the top of the southern mountain map, right next to Linus's tent." This post rose to even bigger heights than the initial pitch, currently sitting at 1.5 million views as of writing this video. The replies were filled with people tagging friends and expressing their excitement to explore the brand new map. Anyway, the mod's plot centered around BG3's main character Cass settling in a small village above Pelican Town after the Netherbrain's defeat. While most of the main cast, Karlach and Will are still adventuring through Avernus at this time. According to Gale, many magical artifacts like blueprints to fix Karlach's failing infernal engine and something to help Astarion walk in the sun are hidden somewhere within this new land. Shadowheart, her parents, and Lae'zel live on a small farm near the top of the village with Scratch, barely able to make ends meet. Just saying that Shadowheart and Lae'zel living together has implications, and I'm leaving it at that. Roland has opened up a tavern which sells multiple new items pulled straight from BG3, and also hosts a couple companions, Halsin and Gale. Yenna has her own spacious abode despite being like 8, which makes you feel bad when you're not 8 and you don't have one. The star of the show, Astarion, lives in a beautifully decorated cottage across a small river. Each NPC has multiple portrait sprites, a ton of unique dialogue, and their own set of liked, loved, and disliked gifts, just like normal NPCs. As far as I know, Astarion is currently the only character with hard events, however, there aren't really any resources like the Stardew Expanded wiki for this mod just yet, so I can only tell you what I've personally experienced and seen others experience. The village also has its own Stardew-style covers of BG3 music, special events, and Easter eggs scattered around for nerds and losers. Townsfolk from Baldur's Village also attend normal calendar events and head into Pelican Town quite often. You can tell a lot of hard work and true care went into this mod, and I think it's such a fun addition to the game. Anyway, this video is more about what happened after the mod's release and quite quickly after too. Only 2 days after launch, founder and CEO of Larian Studios, Sven Vincky, retweeted Shinhee's announcement with the message, "So much love went into this. Amazing work." If you didn't already know, Larian Studios is the developer behind BG3, as well as the beloved Divinity series. Larian has long been openly supportive of mods and fan work for their own projects, so much so that they added a modding toolkit to BG3 in the latest update and last update. With that being said, it kind of wasn't surprising that they were excited to see a BG3 mod in a different game, especially one so loved. Sven shouting out this mod personally was massive and very much appreciated by Shin and her team. Now, as I said before, Baldur's Gate 3 and all of the Baldur's Gate games are based on Dungeons & Dragons. The D&D brand is owned by a company known as Wizards of the Coast, which in turn is owned by Hasbro, the toy company. As I'm sure you know, a lot of D&D merch and content exists out in the world, and this is because Wizards of the Coast gives out quite a lot of licenses. games. Larian Studios partnered with this company to use the Dungeons & Dragons mechanics in BG3, but they do not own the D&D brand. This is important to remember. WOTC is not necessarily well-liked in the TTRPG community for a multitude of reasons, a large one being that they are incredibly money-hungry. Despite this, they're just kinda there and people are used to them somewhat. After a few weeks of fans having fun with and exploring the mod, things seemed to be going quite swimmingly for Shin and the BV team. There were some bugs that needed to be ironed out, sure, but all would come in time. Except Wizards of the Coast showed up with a DMCA takedown request. On March 31st, multiple gaming news outlets announced that the company had successfully gotten Baldur's Village removed from Nexus on the basis of copyright infringement. Now, this was not even close to the first time a game mod has been DMCA'd. In fact, takedown requests are one of Nintendo's favorite moves. This is another video that I have successfully been able to turn into Nintendo shade. If you don't know what a DMCA takedown notice is, it stands for Digital Millennium Copyright Act, a law passed in 1998 to adapt copyright procedure for the online age. Basically, it's a formal first step you can take when your copyrighted work is being stolen before resorting to legal action. Obviously, the BV developers chose not to get into a legal war with giant mega corporation Wizards of the Coast and by association Hasbro, which led to the mod's removal. Although Vinka expressed his love for the mod, he technically had no say in what happened IP-wise since Larian isn't the owner of the D&D brand. Baldur's Gate itself is technically a part of the D&D brand, it's a whole thing, and because of the Patreon income, the BV team was making money off of copyrighted content, even if the mod itself was free and the project was entirely fan-made. So was Wizards of the Coast allowed to do this? Yeah. Was it a move anyone considered cool and friendly to the D&D or Baldur's Gate community? Hell no, not in a million years. A social media uproar took root as soon as the news dropped, with players and fellow mod makers alike expressing their sympathy for the developers. Swen himself also made a statement on the matter, saying, "Free, quality fan mods highlighting your characters in other game genres are proof your work resonates and a unique form of word of mouth. In my humble opinion, they shouldn't be treated like commercial ventures that infringe on your property. Protecting your IP can be tricky, but I do hope this gets settled. There are good ways of dealing with this." Now here comes the funny part. This may seem like an abrupt transition, and that's because it is. Mere hours later, on the same day that the DMCA takedown notice was announced, Wizards of the Coast called takesies backsies. Shin and the team seemingly had not even had time to comment on the issue themselves yet. There are no posts from them that I can find made before the notice was rescinded. In their own press statement on Baldur's Village, Wizards of the Coast described the DMCA takedown request as a mistake that they were trying to rectify quickly. Hope you can hear the air quotes. Now, I'm not making any accusations here, but it kinda sounds like a mistake in the same way it's a mistake when you forget to scan something at the self-checkout. This was also the sentiment expressed by a lot of fans and gaming news outlets. With a lot of vitriol towards Wizards of the Coast already built up, most people didn't have any reason to believe them. After the takedown was pulled back, the mod was once again made available on Nexus, and Shin posted a letter on Twitter explaining what had happened to anyone who missed it. Unfortunately, there's more, and this time it isn't Wizards of the Coast doing. If you remember the very beginning of this video, I mentioned that Will and Karlach aren't very present in the mod. And by not very present, I mean they're currently only in a 2-minute cutscene, which is pretty noticeable. The BG3 community has a hefty track record of excluding Will from content, and quite frankly, the game's storyline doesn't do a great job of including him either. Being the only black main character, you can see how that leans into being an issue of racism. While I was researching for this video and gathering tweets from Swen, I saw some replies to his messages regarding one of the mod's writers. On a now deactivated account, a team member named Yu posted a series of tweets about players who wanted Will to be in the mods, saying to buy Assassin's Creed Shadows because the main character, a black man, suffered worse racism than Will. Another tweet reads, "Why not support Assassin's Creed Shadows first? A big black man who is suffering the worst racism." First of all, bizarre thing to say. Second of all, it's incredibly disheartening to see such an exciting and popular mod perpetuate the same ugly ideas that have been an issue with the community for quite some time. That wording is blatant and bigoted. These are only screenshots, so take them with that knowledge, but it adds another layer to the situation itself. Wizards of the Coast made a bad move, and it was a harmful precedent to set. But it's also incredibly harmful to push out these same anti-black narratives in such a big project. Seemingly, the team hasn't really responded to these screenshots publicly, so I don't have anything to share for that, but if you do, feel free to comment. Overall, this story has a lot of layers and not a lot of winners, but I hope that you enjoyed hearing about it, and I think it's important to talk about all aspects of it. That's all I have for you today, though. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I really appreciate you. Thank you so much to all of my members. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay wonderful, my friends, and goodbye.